Hi everyone, from Davide Lo Presti. Today we have the honor of speaking with one of the most important psychologists in the world, creator of the famous Stanford prison experiment, Philip Zimbardo.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Professor Zimbardo, let's start with the Stanford prison experiment.
Okay.
In your experiment, the importance of the labels in determining the behavior of the subjects emerge. How much and how, in your opinion, do we let ourselves be imprisoned in everyday life by labels and expectations?
Exactly. So the purpose of the experiment, which I did in 1971, so it's almost 50 years old, was really a demonstration of how when we play a role in a particular situation, that role becomes us. We start out playing a role like an actor on a stage, but then after a while the audience goes away and we continue to play the role, and that role becomes our identity. And so we like to think that all of our actions are chosen freely. We have free will. We do whatever we want. My personality determines my actions. But the prison study says no, that for many of us, we are influenced, in fact sometimes dominated, by the situations we're in and by the role we play in those situations.
Okay. And in your latest book, Living and Loving, you talk about time perspective therapy. Can you explain it, please?
Well, before I wrote this book, the important work was I did a book called The Time Paradox. Mm-hmm. And in that book, which I wrote 10 years ago, I was the first theorist, researcher, to identify the importance of how our thoughts, feelings, actions are determined by our time perspective. And I say it's a paradox because everything we do is influenced by time perspective and we're unaware of it. Because we have developed a time perspective in different cultures, in Italy, in America, in Cuba, in Africa, and we then act it out unconsciously, automatically. So the three main time perspectives: past, present, and future, of course. But within each of those, I identify two subcategories. So some people live in a negative past. That is, all the time they are remembering failure, regret, terrible things that happened to them. And even though it was many, many years ago, they bring it into the present. And so it ruins the joy of the present moment. Other people remember always the past positive, success, good times with your family, with your friends. And when they bring that into the present, it makes the present more joyful. There's two ways to be present-oriented. You could be present hedonistic, which means you enjoy life fully. You're always seeking new pleasure, new joy. You always want novelty. You get easily bored with the old thing. But you could also be present fatalistic, which means that nothing I do changes my life. So this is really true if you're a poor person. Nothing you do really makes a difference. If you're a migrant, nothing you do makes a difference. And for the future, most of us, as a consequence of becoming educated, have a positive future. That is, we plan, we make a decision, and then we do the plan now, and then we think of a future when we will carry out that plan. So I developed a scale, Zimbardo Time Perspective Inventory, ZTPI, that's now used around the world by researchers and therapists. Subsequent to that book, I wrote this book with my colleague in Maui, Rosemary Sword, about how you could use these concepts of time to make a better life, to love better, to live better.
Yeah. And how are expectations towards the future can contribute to realize our destiny, now positive, now negative, turning into a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, well, see, there's also future negative, because you can make a plan and then you're anxious, will I be able to achieve it? I mean, like I buy stocks, and the question is, will the stock value go up or down? And I don't know. You're hoping it goes up, but suppose it starts going down. So I did mention before, so for some people, the future is filled with anxiety, worry. Also, like for parents, will my child be successful? Will my child become educated, be able to get into college? Will my child be able to get a good job? So for some people, they worry excessively, but the worry is in the present, so it spoils the life now, even though the worry is about tomorrow. So as you said, a self-fulfilling prophecy is you start out with a thought, and then the thought becomes reality. That is, you keep thinking about it, and pretty soon, instead of just saying, my child will succeed, I will give money, I will encourage my child to study hard, and that's how they will succeed. They don't succeed or fail because I worry.
Yes. Let's talk about your life.
My life.
From the Bronx to Stanford University, it's a long, winding road, to mention the Beatles.
That's right.
Yeah. What were the hardest challenges you went through, and your mindset to realize you as a person?
The biggest challenge I had as a child was that my family emigrated from Sicily in the turn of the century, along with millions of other Sicilians and Napolitanos. And my grandfather, who I am named after, migrated from Camerata, which is near Palermo, and my grandmother's family came from Agira, which is near Catania, about the same time. And they came to, I think maybe Philadelphia and then in New York. And the problem was they were uneducated. They were like peasants. In fact, one grandfather was a farm laborer, and my grandfather, Philip, who I'm named after, was a barber. But they never went to school. They never went to high school. And then my own mother and father, same thing, that they were uneducated. They didn't graduate high school. In those days, you had to go to school maybe only till you're 12 years old. So what that means is my parents had no value on education. What you did is you went to school only because it was required by law, but as soon as you could, you stop school and you go to work. So I had to beg my parents for me to go to college. And I could only go to college if it was a free college, and if I worked every night to pay for my own, needs, all my needs. So it was a struggle, because I knew, and of course we lived in poverty in the South Bronx, in a terrible ghetto, and I knew the only way out of poverty is education. Or the other thing is be a criminal, selling drugs. So I always tried to tell my parents, it's important to be educated, not just to get a good job. It changes your mind. It opens you to new ways of thinking about the world. And so I had that vision, and I went to college. I went to graduate school at Yale, and then finally I went back to the Bronx. I got a job at New York University for 7 years, and I taught Columbia University for 1 year. And then in 1968, Stanford University called me and said, we like all the research you're doing, all the creative ideas, we hear you're a good teacher, we're going to make you a full professor at Stanford University. So it was amazing. NYU was not a very good school then, now it's a good school. It was not a very good school, so I went from ordinary school to Stanford, #1 in the world. So it was a big step, not a winding road. So my youth was winding, but New York to Stanford was a straight airplane.
Okay. Before asking you one last question, I wish to pay off a debt how to you. In fact, in my book, La profezia che si autorizza, when I talk about self-fulfilling prophecy and the power of expectations to create reality, this is a copy for you, by the way, I draw fully from your work, dedicating an entire chapter to the Stanford prison experiment and Lucifer effect. In particular, to the power of the labels and expectations to shape people's identity and behaviors. There is a verse from a song by the Rolling Stones, Sympathy for the Devil, which I quote: "Just like every policeman is a criminal and all sinners saints." So, here is my last question. If the labels and expectation intrinsic to a situation can bring out the criminal or the saint from inside us, how do we become the best version of ourselves, everyday heroes? Because that's the hard challenge.
Right. Yes, okay, I'm glad you asked this question, because in the last chapter of the Lucifer effect, most people don't read because the book is 15 chapters of evil, prison study, so it's evil, 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 evil. So I'm not even sure anybody ever finishes the book. But if they get to chapter 16, what I say is, we have now demonstrated how easy it is for good people to turn evil, for good people to be corrupted by the situation, by the role they're playing, as prison guards, but also even as politicians, or corporate leaders who work only to make profit for their shareholders. And I say, so can we reverse it and make ordinary people into heroes? And then I say, the usual concept of hero is military hero, someone who dies in battle saving their colleagues, or religious hero, a martyr, you die for Christ, or political hero, Gandhi or Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela. So these are political heroes. I say, no. What we want is ordinary people, anybody, even young people, who are going to become heroes, everyday heroes, who we train, we teach them. First we inspire that you could have a new identity as hero, and then we give them lessons that I create, psychological lessons on how to be active bystander, not passive, how to develop a growth mindset rather than a narrow fixed mindset, how to change prejudice and discrimination into understanding and acceptance of people who are different from you. So I have these lessons that I created that have cartoons and videos and questions and answers, like I do in my classes in Stanford or now around the world, and then we demonstrate that it changes people. So in that chapter, it was just an idea. Could you imagine? And then what I did is I followed up to say, I will make a non-profit foundation in San Francisco called the Heroic Imagination Project, because I say heroism starts in the imagination. I could be a hero. I could imagine it. And now, again, young people all have heroes, but they're superheroes. Batman, Wonder Woman, now Spider-Man. But what I say is, you know what? You have something that all superheroes envy. What is that? You have a brain. Yeah. Superheroes have no brain. They are the brainchild of a cartoonist. And that's all the cartoonist doesn't give them the brain, it's the cartoonist's brain. Yeah. So now the problem is, you have a brain, how will you use it wisely and well? Yeah. And I say, you're going to use it to make the world better. Not by compassion, not by, like the Dalai Lama says, be compassionate to other people. That's nice. So compassion means, I feel your suffering. I relate to you. Nothing changes. You have to transform compassion into social action. Action is what makes a difference. So in our lessons, we teach you how to be an action hero. Not a superhero, but ordinary hero. And it's been very effective. Our program now is in 15 countries around the world. And I was just in Naples, and I visited University of Salerno. And they're going to start my program there. And then you have to demonstrate, does it work? Does it make a difference? And if so, they will spread it throughout Italy.
Okay.
I hope so.
Because you are one of my personal heroes.
Ah, grazie. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Prof.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Ciao.